You asked, I'm going to deliver. Okay, so just a disclaimer. When I was first putting my deck into make playing cards, I was working on the tin cover, and this was not acceptable. So the tin cover that you can get now is different. My sister helped me format it a little bit better so it fit on the lid. So that will look a little bit different. But today, we're going to work with the cards. So my deck is divided into 4 categories. You have the wounds, and those are the original experiences and fractures that shape us. And those are going to be some of the hardest cards to look at. Then you have the echoes. Those are the patterns and behaviors that replay in adulthood. And there are more of those. I've got 18 of those because to me it only made sense that we're not all the same. And so we're not all going to react to things that trigger us or be the same person because of our life experience. So there are more of those cards. The inner child, the tender, playful, and wounded archetypes within. Some of those might be a little bit difficult to look at because we're still carrying the inner child within us. And again, that's going to be different because of our life experience. The healing path, the medicine, the practices, and the choices that restore balance, those are a lot easier to look at. All right, so I've had a lot of questions on how to use this deck. So we'll just go through some of this. So a daily spread, you can pull one card in the morning or the evening and read its description and reflect on the prompts in your journal. So, and notice how the card's message will weave into your day. Because they are so different, and honestly, you know, I would use the whole deck and shuffle it for that, because sometimes we notice when we're using our oracle or our tarot that not always is the message directly for us. It could be something that is affecting us. And that could be outside influences. It could be someone in your family. So, yeah, I think that this deck would be perfect for just a daily card. Journaling companion, choose a card when you feel heavy, triggered, or stuck. And you might even want to, like, especially with the book, just find the image that speaks to you on that day. Because the image itself is going to speak to you. And then, you know, find the journal prompts. The invisible child. Where in my life do I hide? What would it feel like to be visible? And what gifts have gone unseen? I know sometimes I feel this very much. The spreads, and now we can try simple spreads, like the shadow spread, which is the wound, that's where it starts, the echo, how it continues to affect us, and then the healing path. There's the inner child spread, which is what my child self needs, which could be either here in the inner child or in the healing path. Or actually, you could use the whole deck, because honestly, this right here, if you know, escapism, you could be like, okay, maybe I need to confront something, right? So yeah, you could actually, how can I nurture them and what gift they hold for me? And don't be afraid to pair this with tarot, you know, because I think that pairing this with tarot could give you even more in-depth direction. The integration spread. This is the one that I thought that we could do. So that involves each group. So let's pull one from each one, and just to see how this works out. So let's put aside these other 4 categories. So we're putting aside the healing path, the inner child, and the echoes for the time being. And since there are only 10, I'm just going to shuffle and fan them out and pick one. Now, everyone has a different way that they cleanse their cards, that they get ready for a reading, right? I would definitely, because these are, it's shadow work, and shadow work is not anything that I take lightly. And because it's very psychological, it's very much, it's a spiritual thing for me. So I would clear my space with, let's use some spray. I'll use some spray right now, just some smudge spray to kind of clear my space. This smells good. I'm spraying. I don't want to touch my cards. All right. But smoke from sage or something like that. Crystals. All right. Give me my wound. What is my wound? Right here. All right. Let's read about rejection. Rejection wounds form when you felt unwanted, ridiculed, or dismissed for who you were. It is the scar of not being enough or being too much. This wound often leads to perfectionism, self-criticism, or hiding authentic expression. The key words are unworthy, unwanted, shame. Criticism or belittling creates shame and fear of unconditional love. Of conditional love, sorry. Healing prompts. What parts of myself do I still hide for fear of rejection? How do I respond when I feel criticized? And what would unconditional self-acceptance look like? My worth is inherent and unshakable. And I'm not going to go into the times that I felt rejected, but it's not parents. For me, it was never my mom. But because of other things in my childhood, going to school and being extremely neurodivergent, there are times where I felt like I wasn't enough because and I was too afraid to speak up sometimes, which is another core wound that I had from witnessing certain things in my childhood. I felt this many, many times. Maybe it was from a teacher. It could have been from a fellow classmate. But I definitely felt this. And that choked me up when I first saw it because it has definitely followed me. All right. So the next one is the echo. I'm going to set this one aside. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fan it out. And just whatever I feel drawn to, which this one kind of stuck out for me. Oh, what do you know? Perfectionism. That absolutely makes sense. Let's look in the book, shall we? Perfectionism is page 52. Perfectionism often grows from rejection wounds. The child self learned that being flawless was the only way to be safe or loved. As an adult, this manifests as impossible standards, burnout, or never feeling good enough. Keywords: overachievement, pressure, fear of mistakes, love tied to performance leads to relentless striving. Healing prompts: where am I holding impossible standards? How do I respond to mistakes? And what does enough look like? The affirmation is, I am worthy exactly as I am, imperfections and all. And I will tell you that before breaking down, I mean, this is one of the things that I definitely wanted to address, is that, my mother was extremely busy growing up, so she never directly rejected me for anything. But when the parent is not home and you are very much needing a parent, it can feel like rejection to the child, even though it's not the parent's intention. They have to work, right? They have to work, or they have to go to school or whatever. And the child does not understand. They just know that their parent isn't around. So I did overachieve as a child I knew that I would get my mother's attention then. And I did the same thing to my children. And I saw how it affected them. Always working, or I was also in a band thinking I could do it all, right? And I did do it all. But my children suffered because I wasn't there. So it is just, when we break down all the many things that echo in our adulthood, there are many things that can cause it. You know what I mean? Because rejection happened in more ways than one. And as the child self, we're not, our brain is not fully developed enough to even understand it. And so even though the parent tries to explain why they're not there and, that they're doing this for you, it can still feel like rejection and still have that echo later. So, I mean, yeah. All right, let's move on from that, because that was extremely, hard-hitting. All right, so this is the inner child. This is who we're carrying now with us from that. Yeah, it's this one. Oh. And this, I never would have thought this, right? Well, let's read and see what the Rebel says. So the Rebel, page 88. So the rebel child fought back against injustice, sometimes in secret, sometimes boldly. They refused to conform to silence or suppression. So their spirit is wild, necessary, and alive. Healing means honoring rebellion as sacred truth-telling. The key words are defiance, freedom, resistance, sacred protest against injustice and hypocrisy. Healing prompts: what rules felt suffocating? How did I resist as a child? And where does my rebel still live? I embrace my freedom and speak my truth. Now, I would have chalked this up to just being neurodivergent. Because it's hard for me to follow rules. I definitely can. But if I feel like there is something that just is not right, I do speak out now, where before I was silent. I was silent out of fear of, guess what? That right there. So there are children that aren't afraid to speak up and might feel this because nobody wanted to hear it. But that wasn't me. But this is so darn freaking accurate, because I stayed quiet because I was afraid of that. Okay? That's, Holy smokes, I've got goosebumps, because I never really related to this card, if you know what I mean. I see it very much. You know, the people that just will not conform, and they get in trouble a lot, even as an adult. No, I conform, but it's always been out of fear. And now it's like, I know that conformity is a choice. It's not something I have to do. To me, it has to be something that is for the greater good before I will conform, if you know what I mean. Because to me, truth is the greater good. And sometimes the truth goes against community. It goes against social media. If you haven't noticed. All right, let's move on. So this is the healing path. This is the healing path. Well, this one. Yes, and I'm going to tell you, I don't honestly do enough of this. Let's take a look and see what it says in the book. Therapy and journaling. 102. I think we can never go wrong with this. Reflection, honesty, healing tools. Therapy and journaling create safe containers for truth. Writing gives shape to hidden feelings. Therapy provides witness and guidance. Both are paths of integration, helping you process instead of suppress. So what truth am I afraid to write down? Ooh. How might professional support lighten my load? It's been a while since I have had therapy. In fact, it's been a few years. I will tell you that creating this was therapy. It was extremely therapeutic. It was hard hitting too, you know. I grow through reflection and compassionate inquiry. And I don't think that therapy can only be professional, because I do think that this type of therapy can be very helpful. In fact, I encourage you to look into your own shadow, and don't deny it. You know, don't deny it. Don't be ashamed of the way you have turned out, so to speak, because there's always a light and dark aspect of everything. It doesn't matter. There is a opposite duality in everything, but it's all part of the same pole. It's that same, like I say it all the time, love and hate are just within a degree of each other. So there's a light and dark of everything. Why not find the balance, right? Find the balance and integrate that, because, you know, right here, speaking your truth, I think is, that's not a bad thing. Even if you're, you know, on social media and you're talking about something important, you know, I mean, just be you. Just be you and feel good about it, because your voice is important. Social media is its own freaking monster, really. So, like for myself, I understand that if I say something that goes against the narrative, that I'm going to be disciplined somehow. You know, the algorithm won't push my stuff out or something like that, you know. But I understand the consequences of my actions. That's kind of like what shadow work is to me? It's just being accountable. But you have to know yourself and then understand that that's where that comes from. You have compassion for yourself, you have forgiveness for yourself, and then you have forgiveness for others. So this was how to work with the deck. I think that anyone it's like any oracle. It's just, to me, it can be a very, it can be a little bit difficult, you know. And I don't mean like difficult to understand. I mean difficult to accept sometimes, because I feel like any of these wounds can touch us. It just depends on our own perception, because we're all different. What might feel nonchalant and wasn't none but a thing to someone else could be devastating. And that's where the wound begins. And definitely as a child. So, yeah. So that was it. I hope that you enjoyed. And let's just let's pull a card and see if there's any message for someone out there. Obviously, this deck is not going to have reversals. All right, message for anyone out there. I guess I'm not alone, am I? I think there's a lot of us that... and perfectionism, again, can come from a lot of different things. It definitely can. And this can have a shadow. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's exhausting. It's freaking exhausting. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. And I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful day. And I will see you in the next one.